Morning, everyone. We'll begin in a few minutes. Few people are just coming in, so be there with us. Yeah, please join Venerable in the prostrations. Begin. Thank you. So thank you, Venerable, again. Welcome to Choe Khor Sum Ling.
Thank you. I think that's the usual suspects. Yeah, I don't think we need an introduction. All right. Good morning. Hi. So we're discussing the Bodhicharya Avatar, the guide to the Bodhisattva's way of life. Is this the first session you're having?
I think after we already have had a few sessions.
Okay, yeah. Uh, so maybe it's better if I just present a brief outline of the text, get a better picture of what this text is about. So, as you see, it has 10 chapters. And you could think about three major sections in which these 10 chapters could be kind of organized in. So chapters 1 to 3, we speak about or discuss how to generate what is called the mind of enlightenment or bodhicitta, where it has not yet arisen. So cultivating bodhicitta newly. And then chapters 4 to 9 discuss how to prevent bodhicitta that has arisen in your mental continuum, prevent it from declining, and then what to do in order to enhance it, increase its efficiency, potency. So you'll see that this section from section that includes chapters 4 to 9, they also discuss the 6 perfections. So from the 6 perfections, you'll find that perfection number 3, 4, 5, and 6 are explicitly discussed in separate chapters. The first 2 perfections, you might wonder what's going on with the first 2 perfections. The first 2 perfections being the perfection of generosity and ethical discipline, morality. So there's dana, shield, then kshama, virya, dhyana, and prajna. So dana and shield, ethical discipline, and generosity, they're kind of handled or discussed in chapter number 3, 4, and 5. Yeah. So some part of that discussion will go through as we discuss the verses in chapter number 3. So that's the second section, and then there's the third section, which talks about dedicating the merit that we accumulate through different practices. Of course, cultivating bodhicitta is a virtuous activity, and then fusing it, combining it with the practice of the perfections. So that's discussed in chapter number 10. So the 10 chapters here, the first one is benefits of awakening mind, which has already been discussed. Was it Venerable Gachi started the discussion? And in the first session, maybe Venerable Legden had it, and then Venerable Gacha had the session after that. In third session, I had the session. I led the session, and then during that session, we completed the first chapter, and then the fourth session was led by Venerable Legden. So he's covered till verse number 45, 46, I think. So we'll take up from there. Yeah. So the first one, benefits of awakening mind, it's called Bodhicitta Anushamsa. So discussing the benefits, the advantages of cultivating the mind of enlightenment. Second one is disclosure of wrongdoing. So that's the chapter on Papadeshna. Third one is full acceptance of the awakening mind, and that's Bodhicitta Parigraha. Then this conscientiousness, which is Bodhicitta Apramad. Then this a chapter on guarding alertness or Samprajanya. Then there's a chapter on Shanti, which is patience. There's enthusiasm or Virya, Dhyan, which is meditation, meditative stabilization, and then Prajna. And then there's the last chapter, which is dedication, which is Parinamana. So those are the 10 chapters. And again, as I discussed, the first part of the text, it talks about generating bodhicitta, and it talks about how the excellent qualities of, it discusses the excellent qualities of bodhicitta. So that is discussed extensively in the first chapter. Then the second chapter is about confession of negativities, and that's where we are right now. So this second chapter is actually part of a specific practice in the Mahayana tradition, which is called the 7-limb prayer. Yeah. So the chapter, second chapter actually starts with introducing introducing the first two limbs of the 7-limb prayer, and then there's a very longish discussion on how to identify an ideal, valid kind of refuge in relation to which you then make confessions about whatever transgressions you committed in relation to the refuge and other beings also. So that is discussed extensively in chapter number 2. And then at the end of the chapter, you'll find a few verses which talk about how the confessions need to be done and what is it that you need to confess, or the confessions are about. And the third chapter is about taking hold of bodhicitta. So that is all included in the first section of the text. A second section, as I said, it talks about preventing degeneration of the bodhicitta cultivated. And here too, there are three chapters, 4 to 9. That's chapter number 4 to 9. Talk about how to prevent degeneration and how to enhance your bodhicitta. So part 3, you could actually, within part 2, you can identify a separate part which talks about the perfections. So I just spoke about the 6 perfections. So 4 perfections are kind of discussed explicitly here. 2 are kind of discussed implicitly in chapters 3, 4, and 5. So that's the second part, and the third part is about dedications. It's the concluding part. Okay, so that's a general outline of this text, and As it mentioned, chapter number 1 is completely done. So this is the chapter on Bodhicitta Anushamsa, which is discussing the excellence of Bodhicitta. It starts off by going through the preliminaries, which is the norm. Any text, any Buddhist text, you'll find there's a homage section. It begins with the homage section, and usually the homage section is kind of combined with a part which deals with stating the purpose, so statement of purpose for composing the text. So that's all discussed in verses number 1 to 3 in the preliminary section. Verses number 2 and 3 specifically kind of talk about the statement of purpose stated by the author of the text, who is Acharya Shantideva. Chapter number 2 also, rather chapter number 1, the second part of chapter number 1 talks about a very important concept. And it talks about how precious human rebirth is. It talks about what makes this human rebirth precious, the different kinds of endowments and freedoms that characterizes human existence. Reminds us about that. And then that discussion is kind of, it spills over in chapter number 2 also. We'll go through some of the verses, we'll discuss it. And it's combined with the presentation on how it is easy to lose these endowments and liberties that characterize our present existence. So it talks about death being an inevitable consequence of our birth. So the moment we are born, we are kind of already initiated the process of dying. So that is inevitably. What time we will die in this lifetime is uncertain. So we need to be kind of aware of that and bring that understanding, those insights into our practice, and be alert to that inevitability. So that's discussed in chapter number 2 also. There's some verses that discuss it. And then the discussion builds on that understanding and introduces the concept of refuge. So we'll see that what refuge means and why we should seek refuge in a certain kind of object, and what that ideal object should be, what would qualify it as an object of refuge. So we'll look into that. So this is all discussed in the second part of, or rather introduced in the second part of chapter number 1. The third part of chapter number 1 talks about Bodhicitta. And specifically introduce different kinds of Bodhicitta. So you're familiar with it, right? So what are the two different kinds? Aspiring Bodhicitta and engaging Bodhicitta. So you know the difference of aspiring, engaging Bodhicitta. Aspiring is just wishing to cultivate Bodhicitta. Engaging is actually combining it with the practice of perfections. Yeah. Let you be inspired by this very expansive motivation of Bodhicitta. But it also kind of combines actions of generosity, ethical discipline, patience, enthusiasm, meditation, and wisdom. So that kind of strengthens or rather enhances the virtue, the merit that we are able to accumulate, and fastens or accelerates our progress towards our goal of Buddhahood. Yeah. So that's discussed. The two types of bodhicitta are discussed, and then there's also the general logic of altruism is kind of presented in this part of the first chapter. So and then the general ideal of the bodhisattva is praised in the first chapter. So that's all first chapter. So let's start with the discussion on chapter 2. Before we do that, as I mentioned, I think Venerable Legden had paused at verse number 45, I think, or 46. So we'll kind of take off from there. So just to give you an outline of chapter number 2. So chapter number 2 is about confessing your negativities. So Papa Deshna. So this chapter introduces the 7-limb practice. So what are the 7 limbs? Can anyone recollect the 7 limbs? Yeah, that's the homage limb, the limb of homage, or you could say vandana. Yeah, offering. So that is pujana. Then the third one is confessions. Yeah. And that is the papadeshna. And then the fourth one is rejoicing is the fourth one. Request is the fifth one. So rejoice in the merits accumulated by other sentient beings, mostly the Buddhas, the Bodhisattvas, the Arhants, Shravaka, and Pratyek Buddha. So rejoice in the merit that is accumulated by others. So that's the fourth one, which is Anumodana. Then the fifth one? Besiege. Besiege. Kind of. Adheshna, make an appeal to the Buddhas who are about to kind of pass into nirvana, not to, or rather, plead with them to keep turning the wheel of the doctrine. Yeah. Then make an appeal to them not to pass into nirvana. Yachna. Yeah, so that's the sixth one. And then the last one is the limb of dedication. So these 7 limbs are discussed over these 2 chapters, chapter number 2 and 3. So chapter number 2 introduces the first 2, starts with the first 2 limbs, the limb of homage and offering. So the limb of offering is kind of discussed extensively through verse numbers 1 to 25. So you talk about offerings could be in different forms. There are material offerings and mental offerings. So these are all discussed in verses number 1 to 19. Verses number 8 to 9, they talk about the specific offering of offering your body. Yeah. So that's discussed. The offering limb is discussed through verse number 1 to 25. And the limb of homage is discussed through verses number 24 and 26. Then the discussion kind of veers off into a different direction. Before discussing the limb of confession, you need to confess your transgressions, make the confession in the presence of some object, right? So what is that object? That object is defined. So that object is the 3 jewels of refuge. So what makes those 3 jewels, or rather the 3 objects, ideal to be described as refuge? That is discussed in this part of the text in the 2nd chapter. So that is covered through verses number 27 to 54. So some part of those verses we'll discuss today. And within this, as I mentioned, verses number 27 till 36, they discuss the reality of death, the inevitability of death. So we've spoken about it, right? So the reality of death is discussed. And then, the practitioners are urged to think about what happens after death. There's a huge black hole in our understanding what happens after death. So the texts have certain suggestions, the teachers will give certain instructions. So you process all that information and then figure out, and you need some sort of assistance to navigate that process, after death. So you need some sort of assistance, and that assistance comes in the form of through the some sort of a refuge. So that refuge is then discussed and described through verses number 37 to 53. And the actual limb of confession is discussed through verses number 54 to 60. This is actually the latter part of this section, maybe verses number 61, 62, 63. Those are the verses which talk about the specific practice of confession. Yeah. So these are the first 3 limbs. These are discussed in chapter number 2. Yeah. Chapter number 3, which I hope to cover into this discussion, hopefully. That chapter discusses the rest of the limbs. So 4th, 5th, 6th, and the 7th limb. So it's got about 30 odd verses. Till verse number 22 is the discussion on the remaining limbs. So the first 2-3 verses kind of talk about the limb of rejoicing. Then there are the limbs which discuss the appeal that is made to the Buddhas and our gurus to continue turning the wheel of the doctrine, and then not to pass into nirvana. And then there's an extensive section on dedication. So there's a general kind of dedication that is introduced, maybe verse number 9 or 10. And then very specific kind of dedications that follow after the first verse, which introduces dedication, the limb of dedication. And it's through these verses on dedication that the paramitas of generosity and ethical discipline are discussed. They're also discussed in other verses later on, but you'll find some discussion being reflected in these verses, through these verses on the first 2 paramitas. So that's the outline. And then verse number 23 onwards is the actual discussion on taking hold of the mind of enlightenment, which is what the 3rd chapter is titled as Full Acceptance of the Awakening Mind. But half of the chapter is still discussing the 7 limbs, the remaining 7 limbs, 4 limbs. And then half of it actually talks about full acceptance of the awakening mind. All right, so since we're doing the 7 limb, discussing the 7 limbs, I thought for today's session we'll do, we generally do a meditation mindfulness. So we do a mindfulness of body, mindfulness of feeling, mindfulness of phenomena, and mindfulness of mind. But let's do a different meditation today. So we'll do the 7 limb practice in our meditation, but in order to start the 7 limb practice, we need to establish the refuge. So we'll do a meditation using visualization technique to establish the refuge in our proximity. So we'll do a visualization of Shakyamuni Buddha. If you're not familiar with it, or you're familiar with some other deity, or you want some other kind of refuge to be invoked, please feel free to do that. Or you can just listen to the instructions, and you can map those instructions to whatever refuge you are familiar with. Okay, so let's just start by deploying a proper posture. So keep your back straight, shoulders straight, back erect, arms relaxed, left palm holding the right palm, and the thumbs touching each other, the tip of the thumbs touching each other. And keep your tongue, the tip of your tongue rested just behind the upper row of teeth. You can keep your chin slightly tucked in and eyes either half closed or fully closed, half open or fully closed. And then take a moment to just pause all the stories that your mind is working through pertaining to your work and family routines, or whatever it may be thinking about right now. Bring its attention to the present context. And then in the space in front of you, at the level of your forehead, maybe about 2 meters ahead of you, in front of you, visualize a large golden throne. adorned with all kinds of precious stones and ornaments, jewels, and supported at the four corners by a pair of snow lions. And on this throne is a large, fully blossomed white lotus. And on the white lotus is a sun disk, a circular sun disk. And on top of the sun disk is a moon disk. So these three elements signify the three principal aspects of the path: renunciation, right view, and bodhicitta. And seated on this throne is our Guru, Shakyamuni Buddha, who has perfected all the perfections and cleared away all suffering and obscurations. So he is the embodiment of the wisdom of all Buddhas and is one essence with our root Guru. He is inspired by love and compassion directed towards all sentient beings and shows us the correct path out of the cycle of samsaric suffering. Guru Shakyamuni Buddha's holy body, which is made of golden yellow light, displays the aspect of a fully ordained monk, bhikshu, wearing the three saffron robes or the wheatish robes of a bhikshu. His face is radiant and beautiful, and has a loving gaze directed towards all sentient beings. Eyes are long, fine, and narrow. They're half open or half closed. Half closed, signifying that Guru Shakyamuni Buddha is in a state of meditative voice, meditating on the ultimate nature of ultimate reality of all phenomena, that is emptiness. And at the same time, they're half open, indicating that while he is in this state of meditative poise, inspired by compassion, he is working for the welfare of all sentient beings. His lips are red, hair is dark, blue-black, and each hair curls individually to the right. And then there's a protrusion on his crown, a pinnacle called the Ushnisha. His right palm rests on the right knee, and the middle finger touches the moon disk, moon seat. Signifying that he's attained victory over the Mara of desire, Devaputra. Left palm is resting in his lap. In the meditation mudra, indicating that he's attained victory over the Mara of the Kleshas, Klesha Mara, and is holding a begging bowl filled with pure nectar, indicating his conquest over the Mara of aggregates, or Skandamara. He is seated in a Vajra posture, surrounded by an aura of light, indicating his victory, his conquest over the Mara of death, Mrityumara. So every aspect of Guru Shakyamuni Buddha being indicates or symbolizes his inner realizations, and also the cause of those realizations, which is the merit that is accumulated over eons. So Guru Shakyamuni Buddha is one essence with all the gurus, all the Buddhas, the Dharma and the Sangha. And golden rays of light radiate from his heart and pervade the entire space in the 10 directions. And at the tip of each such ray of light manifests Guru Shakyamuni Buddha to ripen the mental continuum of all sentient beings. One such ray of light is directed towards me, and Guru Shakyamuni Buddha lovingly smiles at me and says, "Son of lineage, if you seek liberation, I will guide you, I'll assist you." Saying so, he promises to guide me on the path to liberation and also to protect me from the suffering of the lower realms. I, on the other hand, in spite of having taken infinite rebirths in samsara, have not liberated myself from the cycle of suffering. I am still bound in samsara. Through some good fortune, I have attained this precious human rebirth, characterized by the 8 freedoms and the 10 endowments. And the opportunity to practice the Dharma. I have the good fortune of studying the Dharma, have access to the doctrine and to teachers. But there's no certainty that these freedoms and endowments will persist. Death is inevitable. I could die any moment, could be even today. And at the time of death, I'll be separated from these freedoms and endowments. And there's no certainty that in my next lifetime, I'll have these freedoms and endowments. More likely that I'll be born in one of the lower miserable realms, characterized by immense suffering. I do not have the wish to experience that kind of suffering. If by some chance I have the good fortune of getting a human rebirth again, or rebirth in the realm of devas, even there's a lot of suffering. In the realm of humans, for example, there's the suffering of birth, aging, sickness and dying, and a lot of mental suffering too, in the form of anxiety, stress, depression. And so is the case in the realm of devas. So there's no place in samsara which is free of suffering. There's nothing to be so enamored to about the higher realms. Yet in this lifetime, I have the wonderful fortune of having access to the doctrine and the intelligence, the discriminating faculty to discriminate between the flaws of samsara and the benefits of liberation. So I should use this opportunity to work towards liberation. But mere individual liberation is not a sufficient spiritual goal. It will still leave behind the rest of the sentient kind exposed to the forces of karma and affliction. They would continue to suffer in samsara. So I should aspire to attain a capacity, a state, which will ensure that I can help them meaningfully in their pursuit of liberation too. Just like I seek liberation, they too seek liberation. So where do I build this capacity? Where do I find this capacity? It's in the state of omniscience. So I should aspire for the state of omniscience. As a spiritual goal, I should aspire for omniscience. So in my pursuit of omniscience, I need some guidance and assistance. And that assistance, guidance comes through the teacher, the Buddha, who taught a path to priyasas or karma and afflictions. So this is the Buddha Ratna or the jewel of Buddha. The path itself, which is the actual source of assistance. So the Dharma Ratna. And the community of practitioners who cultivated insights through their practice of the path and hence can assist us meaningfully on the path. So that is the jewel of the Sangha or the Sangha Ratna. So with the Buddha visualized in the space in front of us, also remind ourselves that the Buddha is one essence with all our gurus, our root guru, one essence with all the enlightened Buddhas, one essence with the Dharma, and one essence with the Arya Sangha. So with the source of refuge visualized in the space in front of us, let's just offer a small refuge prayer and do the 7 limbs prayer. So I take refuge in my gurus, I take refuge in the Buddha, I take refuge in the Dharma, I take refuge in the Sangha. For the second time, I take refuge in the gurus, I take refuge in the Buddha, I take refuge in the Dharma, I take refuge in the Sangha. For the third time, I take refuge in my gurus, I take refuge in the Buddha, I take refuge in the Dharma, and I take refuge in the Sangha. And then with the refuge still visualized in the space in front of us, let's offer the first limb of homage. So visualize that the entire space is pervaded with copies of yourself and also includes all the sentient beings in this universe. And visualize that you make full body length prostrations to the source of refuge. So that's the limb of Vandana, homage. And then visualize that the entire space is pervaded with beautiful offerings. All offerings that you want for yourself. All these precious offerings, they pervade the entire space. And you extend these offerings to the 3 jewels. And then the third limb, so this is the limb of Pujana. The third limb is Papadeshna. So confess extensively and openly all the transgressions that you may have committed, transgressions of vows that you may have taken, and resolve not to repeat them in the future. So that's Papadeshna, the third limb. Then the fourth limb of rejoicing, Anumodana. So rejoice in the merits of the 3 times of all the Buddhas, the Bodhisattvas, the Arhants, Shravaka Arhants, and the Pratik Buddha Arhants. And then the fifth limb, plead with the Buddhas and your Gurus to continue spinning the wheel of the doctrine, the Dharma Chakra. Adheshna. Sixth limb, plead with them, beseech them not to pass into nirvana and to continue abiding with us for eons so that we benefit from their instructions. Yachna. And then the last limb of dedication, through whatever merit we have accumulated through engagement with this 7-limb offering or the preceding 6 limbs of homage, offerings, confessions, rejoicing, leading with the Gurus to continue to turn the wheel of Dharma and leading with them not to pass into nirvana. Dedicate that merit to the ultimate goal of cultivating the mind of enlightenment or bodhicitta. So let's just recite the bodhicitta prayer to emphasize this. So with your mind generated in the aspect of the wish for enlightenment, let's recite the short bodhicitta prayer. I go for refuge to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my practice of giving and other perfections, may I become a completely enlightened Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings. Okay. So that was the 7-limb practice, which is part of our discussion today. Okay, any questions so far? Okay, so verse number, let's begin with verse number 42 in chapter number 2. Just revise a couple of verses. I think Venerable then paused at verse number 45, 46. So we're using this text by Stephen Batchelor. There are several translations of this text available. So this is supposed to be a better one. Yeah. Okay, verse number 42 says, O protectors, I, so unconcerned, unaware of such terror as this, accumulated a great deal of evil for the sake of this transient life. So this verse talks about being unaware of some sort of terror. So what is the terror that is being referred to here? Any idea? Terror of samsara. Yes, yeah. So, yeah, and it's assuming that the practitioner has a grasp of his own experience of suffering, and based on that, is understood that other sentient beings also are in a similar state and experience similar kinds of suffering, and become aware of the possibility that suffering may be perpetual if we don't do something about it. Yeah? So that's the terror that is being referred to here. And unaware of such terror as this, I've accumulated a great deal of negative action. And why is that? It's for the sake of this, for the sake of experience of some pleasures in this life, transient life, impermanent life. So due to attachment to this transient life, impermanent life, unaware of this fear, the fear of perpetuating my suffering in samsara. O Lords, I who was so careless in the past, I've accumulated much evil through my careless actions. So, O Protector, so the Protector that is being invoked here is, so the Tathagat and his heirs. Yeah, so the Bodhisattva, the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas. So it says, I with my own wealth, my youth, my power, and so forth, all the excellence conditions that I've been blessed with in this lifetime, and maybe even in the past lifetimes, all these have been used or wasted by me under the influence of what appear to be seemingly valid reasons to me, which is to perpetuate my own welfare, my own pleasure in this lifetime. But in reality, all it did was perpetuate my suffering, future suffering in samsara. So I've been careless, I've been ignorant, of what to adopt and what to abandon. The Buddha teaches the path, which is essentially a description of things that need to be adopted and things that need to be abandoned. But because of my ignorance of what needs to be adopted and what needs to be abandoned, I've engaged in a lot of negative actions, and those actions have now created the possibility that I'll have to confront this suffering in the future, which is quite terrifying, which is quite frightful. So, O protectors, it just kind of is an admission of all these waste of the endowments and the liberties that I've had in this lifetime, and even maybe in the previous lifetimes, chasing or pursuing things which were completely meaningless and transient and impermanent. So now I find myself in a very desperate situation. I haven't used those freedoms and endowments. I find myself in a very desperate situation. There's no protector that I have. I have not invested in any kind of refuge. I do not have any refuge, and I'm confronted with a situation where I might die. And then with death, I'll be kind of introduced to an unfamiliar place. So in that unfamiliar place, there will be no one who will help me. So there's no means to help myself. I've committed many sins for the sake of transient and temporary happiness of this life. This life, which is by nature impermanent, and have accumulated a lot of negativity, with complete disregard to, or rather complete ignorance of things that need to be abandoned and which need to be adopted. And this is truly, truly, truly pitiful of me. So please, protectors, pay attention to me. Yeah. So this is verse number 42. Verse number 43 to 44. Petrified is the person today being led to a torture chamber with a dry mouth and dreadful sunken eyes. His entire appearance is transfigured. What need to mention the tremendous despair when stricken with the disease of great panic, being clasped by the physical forms of the frightful messengers of death. So who are the frightful messengers of death? Yamantaka is the slayer of death, slayer of the Lord of Death. Yeah. So who are the messengers of death are his cronies. Yeah. So his servants. All those beings that the wardens of the hell realms. Yeah. So these are the messengers of death. Yeah. So petrified is the person today being led to a torture chamber with a dry mouth and dreadful sunken eyes. So when a person who has maybe committed a minor offense or a minor crime is being led to a place where he's going to be punished, maybe this text was authored in the olden times, so maybe the punishments were in the form of chopping off hands or fingers or something like that. Yeah. So he's facing amputation of maybe his arm. So there's intense fear and anxiety. Yeah. And the person who has committed this offense, transgression, is trembling with fear. The entire physical person demeanor kind of gets completely transformed, and the person is his skin turns pale. But this punishment is only punishment of this life, and there's no talk about what punishment he might have to face in the afterlife. Yeah. So even in the light of this kind of minor punishment, you are kind of completely consumed by fear. Yeah, you're trembling with fear. So you need to be aware of the possibility that there could be more severe, serious punishment waiting for you in the afterlife. So this kind of this argument is predicated on your belief in the afterlife. So how many of you believe in it? How many of you are convinced there's life after death? Convinced? Not convinced. Yeah. Anyone? Yeah. No.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I haven't been there.
A doubt is also a healthy position. Yeah? So how would you convince him? Yeah.
Yeah, it will be a long process.
Long process, maybe a short argument probably could trigger the thought process. Yeah. So how do we normally kind
I
of?
think that usual way is saying that some people remember their biggest life, but
Yes.
there are some giant prodigies like Mozart.
Uh-huh.
And at the age of 7, when he could create such music,
Yes.
there must have been some imprints of the previous life which were transferred, which gave him that efficiency at 7 to be able to compose masterpieces.
Okay.
But that is used also as an argument.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Carried for some of them.
Okay. Yeah, that's one argument.
Like ants, children killing ants or children killing. Where did that come from?
Yeah,
At
yeah.
that age.
So you find this propensity to be more pronounced in certain people as opposed to others. Yeah. Why is it? Can it be entirely explained by genes? Maybe not. Maybe not. Yeah.
Genetic.
Yeah.
Your progeny is being carried forward. Like you will carry your genetics from 12 generations of your ancestral karma also.
Yes.
But still, it's like.
Like she mentioned, there are certain children who kind of take joy in killing insects. Yeah, it's disruptive. Yeah, it's disruptive. Whereas there are others who are, very careful about doing such things. Have they been trained to do it? I don't think so.
Their friends' behavior also. That's
Yes.
what you want to ask.
Yes. Yeah.
But yes,
The environment. There could be conditioning from the environment. Yeah, not always. Children are children.
I don't know about the afterlife business, but there is that thing. There is some disposition towards being a little aggressive.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. In the Buddhist text, of course, this propensity is kind of explained as a behavior that is congruent to a previous action. So if you've been kind of engaging in the act of killing, so the ripening result of that action is, of course, rebirth in one of the lower realms. And another consequence could be that you have a behavior which kind of mirrors your actions in the past. So the desire to kill is kind of pronounced. Take life is pronounced, and it manifests in this kind of action in the future, this kind of behavior in the future. So your actions in the past have several kind of consequences. There's ripening in a certain kind of form. So we have this human form, and there are other beings who are reborn as animals. Why this difference again? So Buddhism would say that is because of specific kind of karma that we've created in the past, which has impelled this kind of rebirth. And for the animals, it's different kind of karma. And then within that category, within that species also, you'll find that behaviors are very different. And that difference in behavior is explained in terms of imprints, karmic imprints from the past. But is that convincing enough, or
there are research studies in universities where they've studied reincarnation, and
yes,
thousands of cases have been published.
Yes.
People could remember their past lives. Could verify that by going through that place.
Yeah.
The reason I personally don't ascribe to the belief that strongly is it kind of hinders my ability to empathize with people. Like if somebody is struggling, it could just as well be explained by, oh, you did something bad in your past life, so you deserve it. So it's not my job to help you, or it's not my responsibility, consequences of your own action. So I feel very comfortable holding belief very strongly.
Okay.
In adding to this with my work, being in medical genetics team, and then there's something called psychosomatic concept. So your each cell carries just whatever I have been studying and working for patients. Your cell has around 1 million DNA. Quantum science also comes into picture here, psychosomatic and quantum science. Your biology, that definitely your body is a temple, and that cell carries DNA, which has your information from all your previous generations of your ancestors.
Okay.
So it expresses. It can be a psychological disorder or a somatic biological disorder. Either you face a cancer or etc. etc. And psychological, as you said, right? Some people will have the karmas. But philosophical, again, when we go deep, it's again quantum science.
Right.
So this is just my piece. Of course, yes, it is our previous janma's karma. It's nothing but your DNA again.
Okay.
But only because I'm blessed to be in that field, we are able to connect philosophy, spirituality, quantum science, and genetics.
Right.
So end of the day, it's your DNA, but again, not just your biological DNA. There's something more deeper. So Buddhism answers very clearly. So one point when you reach your realization, I feel we have to adopt the Buddha Dharma Sangha to understand more and take out all that seeds and cure the psychosomatic aspect of it to reach the Bodhisattva. I don't know. I'm like you are the gurus. I'm just
Okay. Any other argument?
But I think his argument also we can satisfy by talking about bodhicitta. So if you are aspiring for bodhicitta, then you're not going to have this attitude that, oh, he's suffering because of his own karma and I have nothing to do with it. Because then you're not really following the bodhisattva.
So just like he is suffering the consequences of his actions, it's possible that you too could face similar kind of consequences in the future because of some past actions that you've created in the past. So you need to. It's a very complicated kind of description. You can't take just a snapshot view of somebody else's life and say that, okay, this consequence because of his past negative action. But you don't apply the same to you too. You also are exposed to the same kind of principles. And you're also likely to kind of experience similar consequences because of some of your past actions. So that it actually helps you cultivate stronger empathy for the other person's suffering. Rather than being indifferent to his suffering, this belief in the principle of cause and effect, the law of cause and effect, will actually help you enhance your powers of empathy. And then that's what would happen, in my opinion. Yeah. One of the arguments that is presented in the text is slightly philosophical. So you talk about phenomena, essentially having can be kind of clubbed into two categories. There's material phenomena, and then there is mental phenomena. Yeah. So there's the body, and there's the mind. Yeah. Dependent on each other. In the case of a person, mutual dependencies are there, but they're distinct categories of phenomena. So your physical person is distinct from your mental constituents. Your physical aggregates are different from the mental aggregates. And there is dependency, and there's also a causal kind of relationship. Yeah. Like your physical well-being can influence your mental well-being.
Yeah.
And that is established. I mean, all of us know it from our experience. The other way around is a little more difficult. Your mental well-being can also influences your physical well. Little more difficult, but I think there are enough studies to even establish that. Another thing that we need to note about this is that these being distinct categories, but as I said, there's mutual dependency and a causal relationship also. But when you talk about causal relationship, there are two different kinds of causes that you could speak of. There's something called a substantial cause, and there is something called supporting conditions. Like when you see a sapling, what could be the substantial cause of the sapling?
Seed.
The seed. Yeah. The seed is what matures into the sapling. But the seed on its own, is it able to kind of morph into a sapling? It needs supporting conditions. And the soil, this fertilizer, this moisture, heat, everything is required. So those are the supporting conditions. But it is the substance of the seed that morphs into the sapling. So that is the substantial cause. So similarly, for physical phenomena, there is something called a substantial cause, and there are supporting conditions. So the mind can be a supporting condition for a physical phenomenon. Similarly, the physical aggregate can be a supporting condition for the mind. But a mind can have only a certain kind of a substantial cause. So for that, you need what substantial cause can you ascribe to the mind? For that, you need to understand the definition of the mind. So how would you define mind? Any idea? How would you define the mind?
A collection of neurons.
Okay, so neurons are material. Yeah? Yeah. So yeah, that is the more contemporary kind of description. Yeah.
There is no fixed entity called the mind. It's
Okay.
an aggregate of your thoughts and emotions.
Okay, so thoughts and emotions. Yeah. Thoughts and emotions. With thought, materiality to it.
Not that I
Yeah, so thought is immaterial. Yeah. So material phenomena cannot be a substantial cause of something that is immaterial. The mind is non-physical, immaterial. So the mind in our text is described as something. It has a specific function, right? It makes you aware of something. So you said thought. So you think about your house. That thought has made you aware of your house. You think about your friend. It's made you aware of your friend. Yeah. So it has this function of aware, rather bringing awareness. Yeah. So it makes you know something. And then the other aspect that I just spoke about, it has no physical aspect to it. So it is non-obstructive in a way. It is clear. So you combine the two, that kind of gives us a definition of the mind. It is clear and knowing, something that is clear and knowing. Yeah. So that is the essence of the mind. That is the definition of the mind. That is the identity of the mind. And there are different kinds of minds. Generally, when we start our session, we do a meditation and we kind of peer into our mental continuum and try and identify what different kinds of minds arise in our mental continuum. There are several different kinds of minds that could arise in a mental continuum. But fundamentally, each mind can be described as clear and knowing. Now, we rule out the possibility of something being obstructive, physical, being a substantial cause of something that is clear and knowing. Mm-hmm. So, a clear and knowing entity can have only something that is clear and knowing as its substantial cause. Mm-hmm. Huh? Mm-hmm. So, if you kind of trace back your mental moments all the way back to the first mental episode, mental moment that you had in this life, which was clear and knowing, that needs to have a substantial cause. Mm-hmm. So what substantial cause would you ascribe to that first moment? It has to be something that is clear and knowing. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there has to be a previous moment of something that is clear and knowing. And that previous moment of clear and knowing did not belong to this lifetime. Yeah. So then you have to kind of posit some sort of a continuum of these moments of something that is clear and knowing. And it goes on kind of infinitely back into the past. So just like the first moment of this lifetime had to have a clear and knowing entity as its substantial cause, the last moment of this lifetime will be the substantial cause of a clear and knowing entity of the future, the first moment of the future. Mm. So the continuum will extend in the future too.
Indefinite future.
Indefinitely. Yeah. So this continuum is both beginningless, and it is endless. Yeah. The quality of this entity kind of gets transformed as we refine our mental continuum with all these practices. The quality gets refined. It becomes purer and purer and purer. And at some point, it attains the purest state, which we call the state of Buddhahood, omniscience. But the continuum would continue as a pure kind of entity. Right now, it's impure in our mental continuum. So that's one argument that is kind of used. So you can reflect on this, see if it is convincing. Yeah, you can use logic to examine this. And then there's other arguments, maybe that could be described as being circumstantial. But yeah, there's a lot of literature on children remembering things from the past, and some of this has been proven to be kind of authentic. You can question it, but yeah, there have been incidents where things have been proven to be authentic. So if the child remembers, so your memory is of something that exists, right? It's not, if it's not about something that exists, then it's imagination. Yeah. But these have been established to be memories. Yeah. So memory of something that existed in the past. So
that's a good metaphysical argument for.
That memory is always human, not animal. I do not remember anything about the animal. Always, wherever we get examples, we always see that there was a previous life, he was a human, so that he can remember. Nobody remember he was an animal or someone.
The documented cases usually talk about human rebirth because that can be verified. Well, if you talk about rebirth as an animal, I'm sure I was an animal in the past. Most of the monks in our monastery talk about rebirths in other realms. Yeah, even highly realized beings, they talk about rebirths in other realms. Yeah, but that cannot, I mean, through modern techniques, that cannot be verified. So whatever documentation we have is about cases that can be verified and investigated.
That's a reason. Famous story where you see that the dog being beaten and the fish being eaten.
Yes, yes. Shariputra, observes the family. Yeah.
I know that's a dog.
Yes.
One thing which I find extremely difficult to understand. Now, there is a journalist called Ved Mehta, I must have heard of Navneet Singh's brother, whose son is spastic or autistic. And the way Buddhism, and he has been going all around to find the cause, because it disturbs him. And when he went for a session, said he has committed some previous karma. This is the effect of a previous karma, negative karma, which he finds so difficult to accept. How does a child have to reap the benefits of something like that? That is very difficult for a parent to accept.
Can I add something?
Yeah.
Autism, right? So it is again a genetic disorder. So it has come from the genes of the father and the mother. It could be the condition if a mother is under a stress or if they have a late pregnancy. So it is a collective karma. I'm just asking you, isn't it a collective karma? Yes, and that the progeny has to suffer. But the child is not suffering. The external condition are suffering. Why? Because the cause of the parents itself.
Yeah, I mean, there's a combination of both.
I just wanted to add on.
No, primarily it has to be your individual karma. Yeah. It is your individual karma to experience that kind of suffering.
Yes.
Yeah. But that suffering has to take on a certain form, right?
Okay.
So the form that is presented, that is the contribution from other factors in the environment. So the parents have kind of contributed the material form, which becomes then the source of suffering. The suffering ultimately is mental, right? But because of his unique, peculiar physical characteristics, he's experiencing suffering, which is mental. But the substantial cause for that experience of suffering, was a karmic, negative karmic action in the past. So it is individual karma.
Not the child. The child is unaware. Once they get into that state
No, it's the child's individual karma. His personal karma.
Okay, because he was born in that family.
No, because of his negative action in the past,
okay,
he created the seed to experience a certain kind of suffering.
These parents.
So let's simplify you've taken a life in the past, or let's say I take a life in this lifetime. Yeah. So I've shortened somebody else's lifespan. Yeah. So the law of karma dictates that I'll have to face a consequence which is proportionate and similar to this action that I've engaged in this lifetime. So how does this consequence kind of manifest? It could be in this lifetime also, it could be in the future lifetime. Let's say in the future lifetime. So I have created the karma to have a short lifespan in the future. Yeah. So there has to be some enabling condition for that. Disease, let's say. Yeah. So the disease could come from the environment, and it probably could be passed on genetically from the parents. Yeah. But the substantial cause was created by me itself. The enabling factors, the enabling conditions could come from the environment.
Autistic child as one of the examples. So when we see the mental construct of the autistic child, internally they'll be happy because they don't know anything about the world. But who's suffering? Mentally, it is suffered by the parents. The child he doesn't care. But he might be born in a well-to-do family, and both the parents are able to very nicely give a facility to that autistic child.
No, I mean, we don't know about, the child is not able to articulate.
The mental construct of the child, that person's psychology.
The child
is enjoying inside, internally. Externally, the parent.
Not able to articulate its experiences. So
taking care for the child.
No, it's just the physical environment. Yeah. Internally, the child also may be suffering. Or if the child has another karmic imprint, virtuous karmic imprint, that virtuous karmic imprint gives the child the ability to, negotiate this physical suffering and still abide in the state of happiness. So it's very dynamic, it's very complex. I mean, you can't really identify and isolate one factor and say, okay, this is the consequence of that action. See, the actual workings of the law of karma can be known only with an omniscient mind. As I keep saying, we can only kind of identify the broad contours of the law of karma. So if you engage in an act of generosity in the present lifetime, it becomes the cause for you to be blessed with abundant resources in the future. If you take somebody's life, you shorten somebody else's lifetime, you create the cause to experience a shorter lifespan in the future. If you torture somebody now, you create the cause to experience pain through torture in the future. So those broad contours we can speak about. But this cause leading to this effect, that mapping only an omniscient mind can do. The example that they mentioned, Shariputra kind of observed this family where there's a gentleman sitting by the side of a pond, feeding bones. He's kind of he's eating fish and feeding the bones to a dog. So there's a small dog puppy there, and he's petting the dog rather. Dog is sitting on the lap, right?
No, the baby is.
And the baby is sitting. Is in the. Yeah.
He says, how's your wife?
Yeah. So the fish that he's feeding to the dog was his wife in the previous lifetime. Yeah, and the dog was the neighbor, right? And the person he's he's holding was his enemy in the previous lifetime. Yeah. So Shariputra wonders this law of karma is quite amazing, and we don't know what things are happening, how things are developing. Okay, let's take a break. 5 minutes, yeah, and then we'll continue the discussion. Yeah. I pause this.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so kind of looked into the reasons that we could use to posit a mental continuum that extends into the past, into the future. Now you can explore those reasons and see whether your doubt, it could still remain a doubt, but at least there are two different kinds of doubt that tends to the fact, inclined towards the fact, or inclined away from the fact. So for us, the fact is that there is rebirth. And it makes a lot of sense to explain our experiences generally. It's an easier, simpler explanation. With an alternative explanation, things get very complicated, and sometimes they're not that clear, and they're not adequate to explain our experiences, even in this lifetime. So you can go over it, just reflect over it. All this discussion is kind of rooted in this acceptance. If you have some reasonable conviction about it, then this makes sense. But if you kind of doubt it very strongly, then it's very difficult to agree with a lot of stuff that is written in the text here. So the belief or conviction in rebirth, that kind of represents a significant hurdle or obstacle.
That makes sense. My doubt has definitely shifted a bit more towards the believing side.
Not so soon. Maybe take your time. Take your time. Take your time. So, assuming that there is a continuum, then it is likely that we'll face various good rebirths in the future, maybe even bad rebirths in the future. But nevertheless, at the time of death, that is a very turbulent time. And it's very elaborately described in these scriptures. We kind of pass through a very clear sequence of dissolution of internal energies. It's all described very elaborately in the text. And then at the time of death, certain things happen. Some heavy karma from the past gets activated. And that decides what rebirth you will have in the future. Now, we do not kind of train ourselves to exert some sort of control over this process, then we're completely powerless over how this process unfolds. But with adequate training, we can direct this process a little bit. Yeah, and that's essentially what we try to do here. We keep kind of, all these things have been discussed ad infinitum several times in the past. Yeah, we kind of keep reinforcing it. And then at the time of it, all this will kind of manifest at the time of death. Yeah. At least that would be a short-term goal. Ensure that in the future we have proper enabling favorable conditions like we have right now. And then we can build on those conditions in the future. So that's the purpose. Yeah? Okay, verse number 45 and 46, the first part of 46. Who can afford me real protection from this great horror? With terrified, bulging eyes agape, I shall search in every direction for refuge. Upon seeing no refuge anywhere, I shall become enveloped in gloom. So, yeah, this is reminding us about the uncertainty that we'll go through at the time of death. At that time, we'll be searching for some assistance, some guide, like we do throughout our lives. Some of us, out of arrogance, may not want to admit it, but we are kind of forever dependent on assistance from others, yeah, physical and mental. And we are so used to it that it becomes difficult for us to handle situations where we are deprived of this external assistance. But unfortunately, at the time of death, you have to leave behind all your friends, all your guides, your assistants, your teachers. Nobody's there to help you at that time. What helps you at that time is what you have built in your, stored in your mental continuum. So at that time, if you're searching for a guide and assistance, assistant, it's too late. Yeah. So that's what is being said here. Who can afford me real protection from this great horror? So it's talking about some source of refuge. So the horror has been identified here. The horror is the experience of suffering in the lower realms, or even in this realm. So we, through our analysis and investigation, have established that continuum kind of persists. And there's a likelihood that it could be impelled into a slightly unfavorable realm in the future. And there's a lot of suffering in those realms, in the lower realms. And even in the human realm, there's a lot of suffering. So if you don't want to face that, then you have to do something about it. So you look for assistance, but there's no assistance that manifests. So with terrified, bulging eyes agape, I shall search in every direction for refuge. Upon seeing no refuge anywhere, I shall become enveloped in gloom. So with terrified glances, I search the four directions for a refuge, asking, who will be a true protector for me from this great terror that will unfold after death? But seeing the directions empty of any protection, I'm plunged once more into utter despair. So if there's no protection there, then what shall I do without any protection? And therefore, I should now seek refuge in a proper source of refuge. And we need to kind of identify what that proper source of refuge could be. So when the consciousness separates from this physical body and reaches a point called the next life, at that moment, one feels intense fear and panic. And that's based on testimonies by people who kind of navigated this process and have recollections from the past. And at that time, you're on your own, so your own refuge. Yeah. So you can only invoke what is internal to you. There's nothing external that can support you. So what is the internal refuge that you have is the dharma that you practiced, which has established some seeds on your mental continuum. So the dharma is like medicine. It is what will help us navigate these difficult moments, these adverse moments. So it is the one that will actually protect us from suffering in the future, and suffering which can be kind of equated with illness. So dharma is the medicine that can treat that illness. But no external source can provide you with that medicine, especially at time of death. You need to have invested enough into practice of dharma, so that at the time of death, you can invoke that investment. You can kind of cash in on that investment. So the dharma is the actual medicine. You need somebody who can prescribe the right kind of medicine based on what kind of illnesses you have. So for that, you need a trained physician. Yeah. So who is the trained physician? The Buddha. The Buddha is the trained physician who can assess what your ailments are, physical and non-physical, spiritual, everything, and then prescribe the right medicine for you. The Buddha, he became a Buddha on the basis of the Bodhisattva prayer, that the Bodhisattva mind that he had cultivated in his mental continuum, where he aspired for the state of omniscience with the intention that he would be able to serve other sentient beings. Now, to be able to serve other sentient beings meaningfully, you need to be able to customize and tailor your assistance according to the other person's spiritual maturity, his disposition, his or her propensities. Yeah. And an omniscient person actually cultivates that ability. It's called the ability of skillful means, upaya kaushalya. So the Buddha has perfected that ability, upaya kaushalya. And on the basis of that, he's able to kind of then customize the medicine that he can prescribe to individual practitioners. What is suitable for you may not be ideal for me. What is suitable for me may not be ideal for you. So the Buddha has, through his sutras, he's given a multitude of instructions to different devotees. So the easier way would be to just hand out one booklet and say, okay, this is what everybody needs to practice, but that's not what the reality is. Like, there's this enormous volume of sutra. There's how many sutras, and typically the Tibetans have numbered them in the hundreds. Yeah? And then on the basis of those hundreds of sutras, there are commentaries that are composed which run into thousands. So we have all this literature available to us. Why? Because there's a multitude of dispositions, spiritual dispositions that trainees have. And you need to have different kinds of instructions for different kinds of trainees. So the Buddha is the trained physician, Dharma is the medicine, and the Sangha is the community of nurses, yeah, who can nurse us through the illness on the way to recovery, health. Yeah. So these are the three sources of refuge that we need to seek refuge in. So what does it mean to seek refuge? What is it predicated on? There are certain causes that... Yes. When you talk about refuge in common parlance, what do you understand of refuge? What is it?
Safety.
Safety, right? Safety is protection, right? Protection from something, right? Safety from something. So when you're seeking safety, you're want to be safe from some source of risk, right, or danger. So, what is the fear that that is being addressed here? Fear of what happens after death. Yeah, death is an inevitability, so death is going to happen. Yeah. So what happens after death? You're right. Yeah. Yeah. What happens after death is this uncertainty that we have, and there's a very distinct possibility that we will find ourselves in conditions which are far more inferior to what we have right now. We know that our present existence itself is characterized by a lot of suffering, but this is nothing in comparison to what we could have in the future. If you're born as an animal, for example, just think about the suffering that the animals go through. Dogs that are born in, or rather are in rich households, affluent households, it may appear to us that they have a happy life, but a lot of suffering that they have to go through. Yeah. Dogs probably are the more fortunate species in the animal realm. But there are like millions and millions of species. And most of them are going through extreme kind of suffering. Extreme fear of being preyed upon. Yeah. So the larger animals prey upon the smaller ones. Just like yesterday, we were discussing about how the peacock is a metaphor for the bodhisattvas. So I was giving in this example where snakes prey on smaller birds, looking for their nests and then stealing the eggs. So the snake is the predator there, but then the peacock kind of lands into the lawn and it kills the snake and eats the snake. So the snake also is kind of in fear of larger birds like the peacock. The peacock itself is in fear of being preyed upon by a larger species. So there's the suffering of fear in the animal realm, and there's other kinds of suffering also. And then there are other invisible realms where there's more serious kind of suffering. So that's protection from that kind of suffering. Yeah? And that protection, again, we need to cultivate it internally. We need to make investments so that our mental continuum is it kind of builds the resources to deal with those risks, those kind of dangers. Externally, you can be guided towards that path, and that's what the Buddha does. You can be assisted on the path. That was the Sangha does. But the actual protection comes from the Dharma that you cultivated in your own mind. Yeah. So you need to kind of cultivate it in your own mind. And that's what you can invoke then in difficult times like death. So it's like you're preparing for a maths exam, and how well you do in the maths exam is, of course, dependent on how good your teacher is and how well he gives you instructions and all that. But he's not the primary determinant of how well you do in the maths exam. It's how much you've invested in understanding the mathematical theorems, mathematical principles. The teacher can only guide you, but the actual understanding has to be kind of cultivated by yourself. Yeah. And that will ensure that you do better in the maths exam. The teacher can only kind of guide. So these are the three different kinds of sources of refuge. And refuge is you seeking protection from a certain kind of uncertainty that you could encounter in the future. So the three refuges, that objects of refuge are, the principal one is Dharma. The person who shows the Dharma is the Buddha. And then those who assist you on the path, because they're also practicing, and because of their practice, they have cultivated some insights and they can guide you better. Just like the teacher. The teacher, he studied maths for a longer time, so he's able to give you better instructions. So that's the jewel of the Sangha. Yeah. So those are the three jewels that are described here. So those are the three jewels that we invoke in difficult times, specifically the jewel of Dharma. And we've seen the definition of the three jewels. Do you remember the definitions? Anyone? The three jewels. So in one of our previous sessions, we had discussed the three jewels of refuge.
Yeah.
So there are, each of those definitions talk about 8 different kind of defining characteristics of the Buddha Ratna, the Dharma Ratna, and the Sangha Ratna. So maybe you go back and have a relook at those definitions. Yeah.
He has overcome all his negative.
Yeah.
Developed things to the highest degree.
Yes. So when you talk about the Buddha jewel, for example, you talk about the 4 kayas of the state of Buddha. Yeah. So certain kinds of kayas address the goal of working for others' welfare, which is the Rupakaya. So the Rupakaya has the Sambhogakaya and the Nirmanakaya. And then there's what called the Dharmakaya, which has the Swabhavikaya and the Jnanakaya. So Swabhavikaya and the Jnanakaya address the other objective, which is of individual welfare, own welfare. Yeah. So there are 8 different characteristics of these 4 kayas. So just go back and have a look at that. We don't have time for that. Yeah. Okay, so let's go to the next verse, verse number 46. The second part of verse number 46. If there should be no protection there, then what shall I be able to do? So you're seeking refuge, and then you find that there's no protection there. You're looking for refuge where no refuge exists now. It has to be internal. Yeah, you're looking for external refuge, and it does not. The time for letting external refuge help you is gone. Now you're at a point in life where external refuge can't help you in any way. So in such circumstances, if there is no refuge that can save you, then it's too late to regret it. Regretting at this stage is too late. If there is no refuge available at that specific moment of death, your situation becomes extremely hopeless. And this realization should drive one to seek refuge when you're still kind of active. Yeah. That's verse number 46. 47. Therefore, I now seek refuge in the Buddhas who protect the world, who strive to shelter all that lives, and with great strength eradicate all fear. So this is the translation according to Stephen Batchelor. But the original Sanskrit verse is a little richer, actually. Here in this verse, it talks about the Buddhas who protect the world. But in the original Sanskrit verse, it actually talks about the attributes of a Buddha that make him qualified enough to act as a protector in this world. So the proper translation, or a better translation in my opinion, would be, even today, I go for refuge to the victors or the jinnas. Jinn is a victor. So that's the word that is used in the Sanskrit Sanskrit root. So even today I go for refuge to the victors who are the lords of the world. They are mighty and engaged in protecting the world and removing all fear. So it's actually talking about 3 specific attributes of the jinnas. They are the lords of the world, they're mighty, they're engaged in protecting the world and removing all fears. So that is, those are the qualities which make the Buddha jewel qualified to act as a refuge. So the reason is that the refuge, the Buddha jewel, they've kind of actualized the Dharma in their own continuum. Yeah. They've rid their continuum of all kinds of obscurations, all kinds of negativities. They've perfected all the perfections. They purified the mental continuum. And fear arises in us because obscurations are still present in our mind stream. So you would want to seek refuge in a source who has had success with elimination and abandonment of those obscurations. Yeah. And what are the obscurations that we are still under the influence of? So there are two different specific kind of obscurations. There's the afflictive obscurations and cognitive obscurations. Afflictive obscurations are afflictions like anger, jealousy, pride, hatred, craving, desire, grasping, self-linking, etc., etc. So there are a whole host of afflictions. And then there's something called cognitive obscurations. So cognitive obscurations are obscurations that prevent you from attaining the state of omniscience. Yeah. So they are more subtle. And Bodhisattva is training on the path to become a completely enlightened Buddha. He eliminates the afflictive obscurations first. And he, at the time when he's eliminated the afflictive obscurations completely, he has the option of exiting samsara completely. Because there's no affliction in his mind stream. He's not subject to the forces of karma then. So without afflictions and without karma, there's no external force that can propel you into samsara. So he has the freedom to exit samsara, but he chooses rebirth in samsara because he wants to further his accumulation of wisdom and merit so that he can attain what is called the state of omniscience. And for that, he has to eliminate another subtle category of obscurations. It's called the cognitive obscurations. So there's the kleshas or the klesha avarana, which is the afflictive obscurations. And then there's the neya avarana or the cognitive obscurations. Both these obscurations need to be kind of eliminated before the person becomes a completely enlightened Buddha. So the Bodhisattva aspires for the elimination of both these. And the Buddha has eliminated both these obscurations, whereas we are still subject to the influence of these obscurations. And hence, a Buddha becomes an ideal source for us to seek refuge in. Yeah. So he has this ability. He's exhausted all his faults and possesses all the positive qualities. He's freed himself from all the fears that we are subject to. He's conquered all the opposing forces in the form of afflictions. And also in the form of cognitive obscurations. And on top of that, he can act as a protector of beings because he has this unique quality of being compassionate. Yeah, he has cultivated great compassion. Yeah, so that's the reason he is qualified enough to act as a protector to us. He's accumulated a lot of merit over countless eons. Yeah. So it's said that a person has to accumulate merit over a period of three periods of countless eons, rather. And one period is the equivalent of the time it takes for creation of a universe, its abiding, its destruction, and then a phase of vacuity. So that entire cycle is 1 eon, one period. And there are kind of intermediate eons that describe this process. So 3 such periods from the time he has entered the path, that is, from the time he has become a Bodhisattva to becoming a completely enlightened Buddha, he has to accumulate merit and wisdom over this period. And he's accumulated merit and wisdom over that period. And that's what, because of that, then he's cultivated the qualities of fearlessness and, the 10 powers that describe the state of a completely enlightened Buddha. And that makes him qualified to be a protector. He's also, we said he has great power because he's attained victory over the opposing forces. And he's actualized what is called the 4 kayas, the Dharmakaya and the Rupakaya. The Dharmakaya has Swabhavikaya and Jnanakaya, and the Rupakaya has Sambhogakaya and Nirmanakaya. So Shakyamuni Buddha that we saw was the Nirmanakaya form, the manifest form of that continuum. Yeah. So that is what we connected with. So all these qualities kind of make him qualified to be a protector. He's got great power and he's eliminated all the obscurations. Okay, so okay, let's go to the next verse. Verse number 48. Likewise, a purely seek refuge in the Dharma which they have realized clears away the fears of cyclic existence, and also in the assembly of Bodhisattvas. So this verse talks about the next two jewels of refuge, sources of refuge. So what are the other refuges? So the previous verse talks about the refuge of Buddha, right? This one talks about
Dharma.
the refuge of Dharma, and also the third one, Sangha, Bodhisattvas, right? The assembly of Bodhisattvas. So uh, they have attained, so they is the Buddhas themselves. They become Buddhas because they have attained the ultimate Dharma. And this Dharma is what enables them to destroy the fear of the world. So likewise, I purely seek refuge in the Dharma which they have realized. So the same Dharma that they have actualized in their mental continua is the same Dharma that I seek. I want to actualize in my mental continuum. So I take refuge in this source of refuge, which is the Dharma jewel. And that helps them clear the fears of cyclic existence. So they've subdued all fears. And they also, in the assembly of Bodhisattvas. So this is the third source of refuge, which is the Sangha jewel, the Sangha of Bodhisattvas. So this is the uncommon Sangha. So when we talk about going to refuge, we say, you might have heard the prayer, Buddham Sharanam Gacchami, Dhammam Sharanam Gacchami, Sangham Sharanam Gacchami, right? So I go for refuge to the Buddha, I go for refuge to the I take refuge in the Dharma, I take refuge in the Sangha. So ordinarily, and people associate Sangha with all ordinary people, maybe. But strictly speaking, it's the Arya Sangha. So Arya Sangha means what?
Bodhisattvas above 7.
Yeah. Okay. So again, there are two interpretations. The Arya Sangha is could include even the hearers practicing the hearer path, the Shravakas or the Pratyek Buddhas. But what makes them Arya is that they've cultivated the wisdom of emptiness, direct realization of shunyata. Yeah, so Shunyata is what describes all phenomena, material, non-material, mental, everything. So they have a direct perception of this ultimate state of reality, emptiness. So any person who has attained that state, it becomes an Arya. So we take refuge in the Arya Sangha. Could be Arya Shravak, could be Arya Pratyek Buddha, could be an Arya Bodhisattva. But here it is the assembly of Bodhisattvas. Yeah? So this is a more uncommon kind of refuge that you take refuge in. So this is verse number 48. The Buddha who is free from all the faults and possesses all the good qualities has realized or possesses in his heart the Dharma. So it's the same Dharma that we seek refuge in, which helps us then protect ourselves from the fear of cyclic existence. And I also take refuge in the assembly of the Bodhisattvas who are learning, who are practicing this Dharma. And this Dharma can take on two forms. It's in the form of scriptures, a conventional kind of understanding of Dharma. But the actual Dharma is the insights that you cultivate in your minds, that are present in the mental continua of the practitioners. So that is the actual Dharma. Yeah. So that is what you take refuge in. Okay. Verse number 49 says, I, trembling with fear, offer myself to Samanta Bhadra, to Manju Ghosh. Also, I make a gift of my body. So, overcome with fear, fear of cyclic existence, suffering in cyclic existence, I surrender myself completely to the goodness of, or rather to Bodhisattva Samanta Bhadra. And I also give myself willingly, completely to Manju Ghosha. So these are two bodhisattvas in the Buddhist pantheon. Yeah. So Manju Ghosh is another name for Manjushri. Yeah. So I'm terrified by fears, the fear of experiencing suffering in samsara. And therefore I offer myself, I submit myself to Bodhisattva, Samantabhadra. And the submission that I do is actually of the highest form. It is total kind of absolute submission. Now that I've cultivated faith in the validity of these people, these objects as an ideal valid kind of refuge, I submit completely to these objects of refuge through proper investigation. Yeah, it's not just blind submission. You investigated whether they qualify as a valid source of refuge. So the offering here is not just of your own ego or your physical person, but it is an offering of the very essence of your being. Yeah. So it's an absolute, complete, total submission. And how do you do that? Through purification of your own mind and cultivating wisdom in your own mind. Yeah. So you cultivate some understanding of the concept of shunyata and emptiness. And on the basis of that wisdom, then you make a complete submission to these objects of refuge. So it's a total, complete submission, but through proper understanding of the self. Yeah. So in Sanskrit, actually, the submission is described as dadatmya atmanam atmana. So atmanam is the essence of your own being. Yeah. And atmana is through purified wisdom or through purified mind. Yeah. So through a purified mind or complete wisdom, I make a complete submission of myself, of my being, the very essence of my being, to these sources of refuge, which is Samantabhadra and Manjushri. Of verse number 50, to the protector Avalokiteshwar, who infallibly acts with compassion, I utter a mournful cry. Please protect this miscreant. So another protector is invoked here, Avalokiteshwar. So, and to that Lord, Avalokita. Avalokit is looking at everyone, right? Looking at everything. Avalokit. So the Lord Avalokit, whose actions are steeped in compassion. So we usually describe Avalokiteshvara as the Buddha of compassion. Yeah. I cry out with a distressed sound, being afraid of possible suffering in the future in samsara. May he protect me, the sinner. So I'm a great sinner because I kind of engaged in all kinds of unwholesome deeds by ignoring refuge, not taking refuge in the past, even where refuge was available. And because of that, and because of the forces of ignorance, which was still dominant in our mental continuum, I've engaged in a lot of negative actions. And hence, now I face this eventuality of confronting suffering in the future, in the lower realms. So because of that, I'm fearful, I'm frightful, and I submit myself to Samantabhadra, to Manjushri, to Avalokiteshwar, with a distressed sound. Please come and protect me. I have sinned a lot. So come and save me. Yeah. So that's verse number 50. Verse number 51. In my search for refuge, I cry from my heart for Akash Garbha, Shiti Garbha, and all the compassionate protectors. So another set of protectors being invoked here. Akash Garbha and Shiti Garbha are very popular Bodhisattvas worshipped quite extensively in the East, actually, in Japan, in China, Vietnam, Korea. Kshitigarbha in particular is very popular because of the vows that Kshitigarbha has taken. So Kshitigarbha has taken the vow to not pass into nirvana, although he is a high ground bodhisattva, till the hell realms are emptied of all its sentient beings, which is an infinite number of beings there. Most, in terms of percentage, maybe most beings would be in the hell realm. Yeah. Human realm is very minor percentage. I don't know what kind of percentage would Archana attribute to human realm amongst all the sentient beings?
I think one of the texts talks about like on the tip of your nail, like something.
Yeah. One atom on the tip of your nail, maybe. Yeah. So majority are in the lower realms, and within the lower realms, it's in the hell realm. And Kshitigarbha has taken the vow not to pass into nirvana till the hell realms are emptied. So very extensively kind of worshipped in Japan, in China, in Korea. If you visited Tushita, has anyone been to Tushita? You've been to Tushita? Yeah?
There's a temple of
Yes, huh?
Shiva.
Yeah, Ramazapurapach has deliberately installed a statue of Kshitigarbha outdoors. It's outdoors. It's not in the temple. Outdoors, yeah. Kshitigarbha. That's a Tibetan representation of Kshitigarbha. In the East, there's a different kind of representation. He is depicted as a monk.
So is
Simple
it
monk.
protector of the nature like the mountain?
Yeah. Kshiti is space, right? Or rather, it's earth. So protecting the resources of earth. And I seek refuge in Vajrapani. So this is verse number 52. Upon the sight of whom all harmful beings, such as the messengers of death, flee in terror to the four quarters. So the translation says Vajrapani. Actually, both the Tibetan and the Sanskrit root talks about the Vajra holder. Vajrinam, it says in the Sanskrit text. So somebody holds the Vajra, but Vajrapani also is depicted holding a Vajra. So it's a wrathful representation, manifestation of Buddha. Yeah. So I seek refuge in Vajrapani, upon the sight of whom all harmful beings, such as the messengers of death, so the messengers of Yama, flee in terror in all directions. So I go for refuge. I seek refuge in Vajrapani, who kind of scares away all the messengers of Yama, who are otherwise quite hostile, and they're likely to impede my progress on the spiritual path, and they kind of pervade all the 10 directions. So I seek refuge in Vajrapani, who then scares away, who kind of frightens all these obstructors to my progress. And okay, so that's verse number 52. Verse number 53. Previously, I transgressed your advice, but now, upon seeing this great fear, I go to you for refuge. By doing so, may this fear be swiftly cleared. So, having transgressed your command, and now seeing this fear, I go to you for refuge. Terrified, quickly destroy my fear. So previously, I have transgressed your commands. I have not been very obedient. I've kind of ignored your instructions. Now, seeing the many forms of fear, now having realized that there's a possibility that I could encounter a lot of suffering in the future, I take refuge in you. So please swiftly rescue me from this fear. And to be freed from fear, one must confess and confess all the past transgressions that one has committed. Yeah. And then resolve to refrain from engaging in these kind of negative actions in the future. So refrain from committing negative deeds in the future and accumulate merit on top of that. It's not just about confessing your past actions, but even in the future, you need to kind of ensure that you're engaging in positive actions so that you accumulate merit to advance. So this is verse number 53. Verse number 54. If I need to comply with the doctor's advice when frightened by a common illness, then how much more so when perpetually diseased by the manifold agitations of desire and so forth. So even a person who fears a minor fleeting kind of illness, he should not transgress the doctor's word, and that's what we do, right? Even a minor cold that we have, we go to the doctor, and the doctor prescribes certain kind of medicines and a certain treatment regime, and we are very careful to abide by his instructions. And the when we don't abide by the specific instructions that the doctor gives us, we know that we suffer. Yeah, our illness kind of is not cured or it worsens. So in the light of even these kind of minor illnesses, I am so careful. Then how much more should I be careful in the light of the possibility that I could suffer through more severe kind of diseases and hundreds of different kinds of diseases, which can multiply and increase and enhance exponentially. And that's actually the Sanskrit words kind of refers to exponential increase of hundreds of different kinds of diseases. And what is this hundreds of different kinds of diseases that is being referred to here? Is the ailments or the diseases that come from afflictions. Yeah, afflictions. So if one must follow the doctor's advice or avoid or take medicine for or avoid certain kinds of food and take certain kinds of medicine for ordinary illnesses, how much more so should one follow the words of the Tathagat when we are constantly afflicted by the disease of hundreds of faults? The hundreds of faults that manifest out of afflictions like attachment, jealousy, greed, pride. It is necessary to listen to the teacher's words and learn from their instructions. So that's verse number 54. Verse number 56 or 55 and 56. And if all people living on this earth can be overcome by just one of them, one of these, and if no other medicine to cure them is to be found elsewhere in the universe, then the intention not to act in accordance with the advice of the all-knowing physicians that can uproot every misery is extremely bewildered and worthy of scorn. So, and if all people living on this earth can be overcome by just one of these. So, what is this one of these that is being spoken of here? One of what?
Illnesses.
One of these illnesses, yeah. So, but talk about physical illnesses or afflictive illnesses? Afflictive illnesses, that's right, yeah. The afflictions. So, even one of these hundreds of ailments in the form of these afflictions is potent enough to cause immense damage in the form of affecting negatively all the people living on this planet. Yeah, and we know it from what we see today. Yeah, even from our past experiences. People in powerful positions, overcome by anger, overcome by hatred, overcome by desire, have engaged in actions that have have had an impact on the entire globe, entire planet. Can you think of these examples? Any example?
Trumps.
Trumps. Okay, that's a living example from the past. Many years. Any?
Nuclear weapons.
Yes, Hitler. Yes. Any other? Yes. Stalin. Yeah. Hitler, Stalin, and you talking about nuclear people who created the nuclear bomb. Yes. And
those who created the coronavirus.
Coronavirus, okay. Scientists. There's Hitler, Stalin, Mao. Mao also was out of his ignorance or delusion, God knows what. Mussolini. Mao was probably the worst, yeah, in terms of the number of people he was responsible for killing. Almost, you talk about 40 million people who died under his watch.
that side and
Yes.
deep rumor about the world.
Yes.
But
Sorry, we seem to have lost you for a while. We're back again.
Okay. Yeah, but then you're looking at a very brief moment of history. Just 2,500 years, maybe 2,000 years of history. There's a lot that has happened before where the earth has gone through cycles of destruction also, yeah. In the past.
humans have only existed for a few
Yeah.
thousand years.
Yes, but even during that time, during that phase, I'm sure that it's gone through a cycle of destruction and then rising again. Sorry?
The ice age is right from the ice
Yeah.
age.
Yeah. But yeah, of what we know from history, I think no point in history in the past is as perilous as what it is right now.
Really, World War II was pretty bad.
Sorry?
I would say World War II was pretty bad.
But it would not have destroyed the entire world. It would have probably sent us back to from the industrial age to what was the previous age?
The Middle Ages.
The villages age.
Agriculture.
Agricultural age, yeah. Right now we have the power to destroy this planet
We
completely.
also have the power to fix everything.
But once the planet is destroyed, I mean, although we may have the ability to recover. Yeah, if Russia and the US go crazy and they start launching missiles at each other, they have the power to destroy like 20 planets. Yeah. But it's all kind of rooted in desire and greed, and right now it's mostly out of greed that's happening, I feel. Yeah. Anyway, so you get the point here. Yeah. So if all people living on this earth can be overcome by just one of these afflictions, hatred, craving, greed, yeah. And if no other medicine to cure them is to be found elsewhere in the universe, so there's no cure for this kind of ailment to be found anywhere in the universe except in spirituality. Yeah? And within that, there's a specific kind of medicine that the Buddha offered through his Dharma. Then the intention not to act in accordance with the advice of the all-knowing physicians that can uproot every misery. So the Dharma that the Buddha preached has the potential to uproot every kind of misery. The tendency on our part, or the decision on our part, not to act upon the advice provided by the all-knowing physicians, that is bewildering. That is worthy of scorn. Yeah. So the Buddha gave the supreme medicine that can cure us of all the different kinds of afflictions, and probably the only one who's providing the ultimate kind of medicine. And to not follow up on that advice is quite bewildering. It's beyond any kind of understanding, common sense. Yeah. So you need to be kind of aware of this. We'll just do one more verse and then we'll pause. If I need to be careful near a small ordinary precipice, then how much more so near the one of deep duration that drops for 1,000 miles? So again, the metaphor of precipice is being invoked here to describe the impending eventuality of suffering in the lower realms. Yeah. And these lower realms, they kind of given a physical description here. It's in the form of a precipice, an abyss, which is deep. It's like thousands of yojanas deep. That's the word that is used in Sanskrit. Does anyone know what one yojana is in terms of kilometers or miles? One yojana is roughly about 15 miles or 25, 30 kilometers, something like that. 30 kilometers, I think. So we're kind of staring at an abyss like this because of our past negative actions, and we're being hurled in that direction, and we're going to kind of fall down this abyss into a deep, bottomless pit. And not just depth, it's also got a temporal dimension. It kind of lasts for an infinitely long duration. And compared to human life, the life that a hell being has is infinite, nearly infinite. You have to spend like millions of years there, human years there. Okay, so in spite of being faced with this kind of an eventuality, if we do not act upon the advice given by our trained, skilled physicians, then that would be lack of common sense. It would be completely bewildering and beyond any kind of an reasonable explanation. Okay, so we'll pause here. So we stopped at verse number 57, 58 onwards. So there are some verses which continue on this theme of what the refuge is. And then verse number 63 actually talks about the limb of confession, 63, 64, 65. And then, of course, the other limbs of rejoicing, and then the pleas and besieging and dedication are explained in chapter number 3 till verse number 22. 23 onwards is a full acceptance of. 23 is just as the previous Sugatas gave birth to an awakening mind, and just as they successively dwelt in the Bodhisattva practices, so just like them, I would want to cultivate the mind of enlightenment. So from that point on till the end of that chapter is full acceptance of the mind of enlightenment. So that will be covered in the next session. Okay, so let's just do a short dedication. So just take a moment to reflect on what we have discussed in today's session, and let's direct the merit that we accumulated from that, from participation in this discussion. So just close your eyes and reflect on the instructions that we've discussed today. So we've accumulated some merit by participation in this discussion. Let's direct that merit. So by the power of the merit that I've accumulated through participation in this discussion, may I attain the state of the completely enlightened Buddha, and may I lead into that enlightened state all sentient beings without exception. May the supreme jewel Bodhisattva that does not arise and grow, and that which is arise and not diminish, but increase more and more. Okay. Thank you. Namo Buddhaya. Thank you for your time and patience. It's, of course, a significant investment on your part to come here on a Saturday evening. Thank you very much.